Welcome. It's your boy King Crowder back again with another edition of History You May Not Know and Things That Are Not Taught in Detail for Show. Today's lesson, I'm going to speak on the violent and most horrific period in American history. Most people have no idea about the Red Summers that happened prior to the Great Depression and World War II. Most people don't realize that is what brought us into a depression. It is the most undertaught and underdiscussed subject in U.S. history. Think about this for a second, y'all. We were murdering each other. We were having race riots in every metropolitan city. This spurred the Great Depression. Throughout history, most historians gloss over how this loss of workers, wages, and battles with each other caused our country to literally destabilize. It was self-inflicted by many white Americans targeting thriving black towns. Think about it this way, y'all. We had thriving communities that were tax-paying entities in these countries. Many white Americans in the South had no idea that if you eliminate a whole tax base, what is that going to happen to you and your county? It will destabilize your economy. So many Red Summers, if you think about the race wars in Chicago, Detroit, Rosewood, Tulsa, they were thriving towns that were paying tax bases that were virtually eliminated, attacked, unlawfully persecuted, blood, race, war, all happening in this country without any legal ramifications. No legal ramifications happened around this time. Most people have no idea how bloody and how gory and rigorous the United States was. It was the most dangerous country in the world. Think about how we think about Libya, some places in Africa. Around the 1920s time, y'all, we were that. We were murdering, killing each other, unpromptu, unapologetically, without warning or remorse. Think about it this way. As you've seen in previous videos and content we will continue to discuss, think about black Americans that were gunned down and literally homeless after a race war. People were literally shot in the middle of the day, the next day had nowhere to live, and they had to mentally reset and go about their time and rework and reestablish themselves like it was nothing. Think about the pent-up trauma so many Americans had from the amount of gun violence they saw. People have no idea how bloody and conflict caused us to destabilize. Banking industries were using black Americans to finance things. Many of them did not use banks. That's why sometimes during those Great Depression periods, they were afloat. Think about it. Many of them had to outlaw start their own banks. So many of the financial institutions that many white Americans had access to, the black ones couldn't. So they figured out ways to keep the cash flow and lucrative assets in-house. This is where we see the jealousy, the discernment, the heavy fighting, the end boils, all that stuff start to bubble. Nobody pays attention, and most historians should be yelled at for this time period of glaring gaps in homes. We saw battles, fights, and whole enemies being spurred across. Think about all of those race riots we saw, and there was not a single person brought to justice. The Red Summer to this day, I believe, has a traumatic around effect amongst trust and understanding with law enforcement in many black communities. There has never been a formal conversation, teaching, etiquette, or understanding of what exactly happened. They know it through their bones, emotions, and feelings, but has anyone ever brought back the temperament and the courage to say, hey, these crimes happened and we never talk about them? We just ignore that part of history like trauma can be ignored and forgotten, and that's not how trauma works. The reason why we have so many problems that still isolate us to this day can stem from the summer of 19, the Red Summers. The Red Summers are still 2 generations away from people. Many people have no idea why they left the small towns and communities and migrated across this country. This is why. Many people had to leave, seek, and leak different places just to gain access to freedom. Many parts of this country that were affluent, parts of the South, Louisiana, Mississippi, are now the poorest. And there is an exact correlation why these things happen. In history, specifically the stories of this country, historians have done an awful job highlighting these improprieties and what happened. Remember, y'all, there's always three sides to every story that must be told. You have the traditional American side, you have the Black American side, and then you have the truth. We do not teach the truth. We do not educate the truth, and therefore the problems still fester. I'm hoping that we can do a super discourse conversation about how the red of summer still affects us to this day. If you look at Southern towns and communities, you will see discernment, you will see the disinterest in investment or understanding. The red summer, the worst part of U.S. history, which we will continue to break down piece by piece, and how this red summer tends to affect us to this day. Remember, this period in history, the nadir, the worst part in race relations, social construct, government infrastructure, police brutality, murders, killings, and the banished dismemberment of Black Americans and their inability to gain equal rights in this country. It's your boy King Crowder back again. I hope you learned something, y'all. Remember, we are trying to break apart the stories of America and make them bite-sizable. I want you to understand the who, the what, the when, the why, the where, and what happened. If we break down and we discuss the trauma, and we will unlearn those unhealthy habits. Please smash the subscribe button, share this information, make the content available and successful. I hope you learned something, and I hope all this information is meaningful to you. Again, King Crowder, check it out. It's your boy. Peace.